if you solve their problem, you build that relationship with them, you'll get more business down the road. It's not necessarily something I have to put you on the hook for something every month.
Welcome back to Pest Radio, the podcast where we talk with leaders shaping the future of the pest control and wildlife industries, from business and growth to marketing mindset and the real stories behind the people in the field. I'm Faye Cebi from Digital Karma, a digital marketing agency helping pest control and home service companies grow through search engine optimization, Google Ads, websites, automation, and AI-driven marketing. Today's episode is a special one. I first met Daine Patton at Pest World 2024 in Denver. It was a quick boot conversation, but after the show, I started following his content and it quickly became a daily routine for me. His posts felt like a personal column full of honesty, discipline, integrity, and consistency. Then we connected on Facebook, and then I realized something. Dane isn't just building a wildlife company, he's building people, character, and himself openly and consistently. He's a founder and CEO of Bats to Rats Wildlife Control and Prevention, a prevention first wildlife company in Nebraska, and an industry leader who will be speaking at the 2026 Wildlife Expo in Las Vegas on the mindset and habits of successful wildlife entrepreneurs. So, what I admire most is not just the business he built, but also he became in the process. So, today we are diving into all of it, his journey from technician to CEO, the values behind Bats to Rats, his personal transformation and leadership, and the mindset so many of us appreciate in his daily content. So, Dane, I'm truly excited to have you here and welcome to Pest Radio.
Thank you very much. I am very excited to be here with you as well.
Okay, great. So, Dane, the version of you people see online is consistent, grounded, and incredibly real. When did this mindset and way of showing up become part of your life? Was there a turning point where everything shifted for you?
Well, it's hard to say that there was one specific moment or turning point. The person that I am today and that I try to be every single day kind of started with a series of different decisions that kind of stacked on top of each other. I talk a lot about my health journey all the time because that was probably one of the turning points. I became a father when I was 19. That was also a big turning point. I met my wife when I was about 22, 23, and that was a big turning point. And then we had some more children, a couple of years after that. So they're not 22, 12 or 13 when I was 22 or 23.
Young age for being a father, 19.
Yeah, I mean, I was just out of high school. My oldest son, he turns 21 in December. So, I've been a dad for almost 21 years, and I'm 40, so I've been a father half my life and more than half my life now. And that's been one of the greatest joys of my life. Was I ready to be a father? No. Is anybody ready to be a parent when they become a parent? Not really. But you take it and you just kind of go with it and you grow. And, I wish there was things that I learned, in the last 5 years that I knew back then, because we'd be completely different. But hindsight's 2020 and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say there's a single moment. There's been a bunch of moments that's kind of stacked on top of each other. So they're all kind of catalysts. I guess what the rest of the question is, how does that mindset show up? It's just by consistently doing hard things and proving to myself that I'm worthy of the person that I envision who I want to be.
I see. So take us back to the beginning, before Bats to Rats. What was happening in your life that pushed you to build something of your own?
So I got into the pest control industry in 2007. I worked for one of the big major corporations. They were hiring for a termite tech, and I wanted to work outside. I didn't want to do construction, really. My dad's done construction his whole life. That wasn't what I wanted to do, but I learned a lot from him. I helped him out a lot. But pest control was hiring, and I was like, well, I like to kill bugs when I was a kid. That seems like a fun thing. So that's when I started. I love doing termite work. I was at one job a day, maybe two. And I was actually solving people's problems. We'd dig trenches, drill holes, apply termiticide into the soil. And people that had termites, I was actually taking care of it. And so I really enjoyed that. Then they moved me into like a general pest control route, and I had to do 20 stops a day almost, and had 250 customers to take care of in a month. And I didn't really enjoy that. It was just, I was only being able to show up to somebody's house for 15, 20 minutes at sometimes some of these stops. Didn't feel like I was really providing them a solution, kind of just giving them
Mm-hmm.
a band-aid until I had to come back next month or something like that. So I didn't love that. And then I found wildlife. We took care of mice. I started sealing up houses for mice and solving their problems. And I really enjoyed that. And then I was able to do that for that company for about 4 years. And we really were building something great. But one of the issues with big corporate companies is, people way above you make decisions on how you do your job. And it kind of took the personal aspect out of it. They were treating us like numbers, they were treating the customers like numbers and not like real people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where me, knowing like I like to build relationships. I like to solve root cause problems, provide solutions. And my wife really was a big part of talking me into it. I've always been a very loyal person. When I work for someplace, I'm very loyal. And she's been a business owner since I've known her. She started her own company about 20 years ago, and she talked me
What is
into it.
she doing?
So she owns a home daycare.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's taken care of kids her entire life. And so when I met her, she had a home daycare, and I love it. Like, I'm the most popular person at my house. Anytime I come home, there's like 10 kids that want to give me hugs and stuff like that. So that's always super fun. But she was the one who talked me into, because I was always fighting with somebody at work. Not necessarily like fighting, but I was always standing up for the customer and what was right.
Mm.
And that gets lost in some of those big companies, because you have to meet sales quotas and they're always pushing new products and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, they don't need this. Let's solve their problem and build a relationship with this customer. So down the road, we can sell them more stuff that they need at some point in time, rather than trying to get this huge sale out of that customer right off the bat. So I was always bringing home stress from work, and she didn't like me coming home stressed. And she was like, "You're really good at what you do. You got a truck, you have a ladder. Just go and do it for yourself." And that was another turning point. And it was a mindset that I had to work through. Like, could I actually start my own company? Could I actually start my own business? But she believed in me. So if the most important person in my life believed in me, I might as well take the leap and do it.
Why not? Yeah. Amazing. So you didn't buy a wildlife or pest control company, just like you said, you started with a truck and a ladder. And what were the real turning points that helped you scale into a respected regional wildlife brand on your way?
I kind of like the health journey almost. Small, consistent steps every single day. Just keep showing up. I didn't really know, what I knew how to do the work. I didn't know how to grow a business. I really had no idea about running a business at all. It was, how do I find customers? How do I solve their problems? So it was just me getting my name out there in front of as many people as I possibly could. I never was in marketing, but my mom has done marketing pretty much her entire career. So I
Mm.
had somebody that I could watch, for years as I was growing up, helping grow other companies in marketing. So I had that. And then for my dad, he was in construction. So I had that kind of background of actually building and solving problems for people in delivering a finished product. So I kind of took both of those influences, and it's like, all right, I just got to show up and I got to fix problems. And then I got to hope that these people will share what I've done for them and build kind of a word of mouth, business that way. And that's how I marketed for the first couple of years. I can't tell you that I had all of the systems and the processes and all that kind of stuff that we do now. That's been a learning curve.
Process.
Yeah. And,
Was
five
it
years
difficult, like at the beginning, when you start a new business, first couple of weeks and first couple of months? So was it stressful?
I don't really allow stress to bother me that much. I mean, probably a little bit, but I always just make sure that the next thing I'm doing is the right thing, and I don't try to second guess myself or question the things that I do. And I always stand behind what I say I'm going to do. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm probably going to do it. Like, I don't go off that. So, could I have grown faster if I would have known systems and processes and core values and mission and vision and all that kind of stuff back when I first started? Probably.
But
But
nobody knows when they start.
exactly. And then once I started learning that stuff, and I was learning that from people around me, people I saw growing businesses, and I was like, you know what? If they can do it, why couldn't I do it? And so I started
Yes,
putting myself
exactly.
in rooms where there was already people that had established businesses, and I was just learning. Like, I was just going to be a sponge. How can I absorb as much of their information and then not necessarily copy it, but how do I take it and then inject it into my own business and use those ideas and those thoughts? And, because if somebody, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, I'm just trying to perfect what we're doing here.
See. So you have been in wildlife and pest management for over years in Nebraska. And what were the early days of the wildlife industry like when you first started? What are the biggest changes you have seen in the wildlife industry in terms of customer expectations, regulations, or service quality?
Yeah. So in the early days, I mean, I can't say it was really the Wild West, but there wasn't many people out there doing wildlife exclusion, especially here in Nebraska. There's a handful of us that have even done it or tried to do it or stuff like that. And it was something I never even thought of when I first got into pest control. We very rarely got calls for bats, and we get calls for mice, but very rarely raccoons or squirrels or anything like that. But there was one guy in town that was doing that kind of work. He had
Mhm.
a business for 20 plus years, and his business was the one that big corporate company I was a part of went and bought his business. And that was a big turning point because then I got to learn from somebody that had been doing it for many years. And he knew a lot of little tricks and tips and stuff like that. But I'd say that one of the biggest changes was just the quality of products that are out there now and
I
that we're able to.
heard that from your session, at the beginning, you were at the session in Pest World in Orlando, and you were telling that you needed to create some of the materials by yourself because now there are vendors who can provide all these materials to you, but at the beginning it was difficult. You need to create it by your own.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, we use just lots of caulking sealant. We use lots of foam when we first started. And then, with my construction background with my dad, he's used a metal brake and bent metal for, window wraps and doors and all that kind of stuff for many years. And I learned a lot of that stuff from him. And I was like, you know what? That's a much better way to actually close up holes and seal stuff off for animals if we use metal. So I started doing that when I first started my business. And that was a big change from where we were when I first started. And so that's been amazing. Regulations here in Nebraska haven't really changed too much. I do see, I kind of watch the national landscape, and it seems like there's lots of different places where things are getting tighter. Rodenticide regulations and stuff like that are getting tighter in places. And me personally, I try not to use rodenticides as much as possible. I try to use, metal fabrication and exclusion work as much as I can. They do have their place, and I know that. And places that have a lot of heavy pressure and stuff like that, they need that. But as far as the regulations here in Nebraska, they're not really as strict as other places.
See. Um, Wildlife prevention has gained more attention in recent years. Why do you think prevention is becoming such a critical part of the industry now?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with just customers wanting an actual solution. You know, so many places do reoccurring model, which I understand that's how pest control companies make their money. They sell you a year contract and hopefully you never cancel it. I equate it to the gym, really. The gyms sell you a monthly contract and they're hoping you don't actually show up, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And
For years.
pest control, I mean, unfortunately, we'll sell you a year-long contract. Hopefully you never cancel because you're always going to see a need for that, stuff like that. And with what I do, I mean, I see the need for a reoccurring model to kind of grow your business and have that, sustainability. But I also fully believe in When somebody calls you with a problem, you come and you solve that problem and give them a solution right away. And then if you solve their problem, you build that relationship with them, you'll get more business down the road. It's not necessarily something I have to put you on the hook for something every month. And when you jump off of that, then you're going to start having problems and need me again. Like I much rather come solve your problem. You don't have to pay me any more money, but hopefully you start building me up some referrals because you were so happy with the service that you got.
I got it. Okay. So you were one of the speakers about wildlife industry at Pest World in Orlando this year, and you will be also speaking at Wildlife Expo this year, actually 2026 in February. So what messages do you feel the wildlife industry needs to hear right now? And with your experience, what do you believe in the biggest opportunity or the biggest threat for wildlife companies in the next 3 to 5 years?
So I spoke at Wildlife Expo this year in 2025, and I spoke on building culture and building a team and stuff like that and leading your team. And then this next year, I'm going to be speaking about the mindset of being an entrepreneur in wildlife and the different kinds of habits and stuff like that that allow you to grow your company and be successful. And I've gone to a lot of different of the industry conferences and expos and stuff like that. And I just haven't seen anybody kind of talking about that kind of stuff, building yourself, building your team, building your business. In the wildlife industry, there's lots of super small companies, one guy, two guy, three guy operations. You don't, in the pest control industry, you see teams of 20, 30, 50, 60, hundreds of people in trucks.
Technicians, yes.
Yeah. And so we could have that in the wildlife industry. There's some companies that have grown that large, but not that many. So I think that there's the need, and I think that's the messaging that I'm trying to get across to people is, we are an industry that is growing. We're constantly growing. There's a need for our service all the time. And as we continue to build cities and build, buildings and develop land and all that kind of stuff, we're taking away that land that wildlife is using. And they're moving into homes in the urban areas and stuff like that. So if the industry is growing, let's grow as companies, let's grow as people so we can lead our teams better and we can support our community better.
My next question, where do you see the wildlife and pest management industry heading? But you have already replied that from the point of cities, urban life. But what about more technology?
Yeah, my tech stack is always growing. When I started my business, I didn't even use a computer. I was just using paper contracts, paper receipts, and now the amount of technology that we use with CRMs and schedulers and digital quotes and pictures and all of that kind of stuff. Like I never would have imagined 10 years ago that what we would be doing now. So that's continuing to grow. And now with AI growing and all of that kind of stuff, like it's going to disrupt certain jobs in our wildlife industry. A lot of the admin stuff and the marketing and all of that kind of stuff. So there's always going to be new tech. Drones are a big thing with some of these guys doing their inspections with drones. The different kinds of thermal imaging and all the inspection softwares and all that kind of stuff. Like now when I was at Pest World, there was this company that they fly over cities and they have aerial footage or aerial photography of buildings. So now I can bring up aerial photography of buildings and I can give them a pretty close to firm estimate on what needs to be done because I can see their house without driving to it and getting out of my truck. So that stuff's kind of crazy.
All right. So, for anyone who doesn't know bats to rats yet, what truly sets your company apart in the wildlife industry? I truly understand what makes you different than from a wildlife company, but not only bats to rats, actually, we can say that what truly sets a good wildlife company apart in the wildlife industry.
I would say there's two words that set us apart in how most wildlife companies, and that's going to be integrity and education. Those are the two biggest things for me because that's why I started my business. I wanted to educate our customers on why this was happening because when people wake up with bats in their house at 2 o'clock in the morning, they freak out. They don't know what's going on, why this is happening. So I educate them on why it's happened. What's going on? What are the weak points outside and allowing it? I don't want to come in and sell them on that fear because they're already afraid. I want to come in and give them peace of mind that we're going to solve this problem for them. It isn't anything that they did. It's what's going on the outside of their home that allowed this to happen. And then the integrity part. I mean, like I said, doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, that's a huge part. Following through, standing behind your work, just being honest with people. That's a big way that most service companies can set themselves apart these days. Sometimes it's just answering the phone or returning a message, because it seems like it's getting increasingly easy to win in the service industry because people aren't leading with integrity as much as they should be.
Now we understand better why you left the company and you started your own business. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
And as your team grows, how do you maintain the culture, standards, and customer experience that Bats to Rats is known for?
So I think the first thing is we hire slow. I want to get to know that person. I want them to get to know me and understand what I'm about and what this business is about, because the business is going to kind of mirror what my qualities and my values are and stuff like that as I lead this business. And then I want to train people as hard as we can. Get them into the field, get them the repetitions, because it can be kind of a long process. I can train wildlife control. We have guys that can train wildlife control, but I can't really train integrity and honesty and grit, determination, and treating people the way that they should be treated, or treating people the way when no one's watching, stuff like that. I'm
So
really looking.
you can teach the skills, but yeah, you can change the character.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what kind of matters the most when it comes to hiring, is finding the right people, the right fits, and then bring them in. And then the systems, processes that we use, we make it as easy as possible and as stress-free as possible for people to be successful in this company.
I want a little bit talk about also your personal transformation. Losing over like 115 pounds is really powerful. So, what did the journey teach you about discipline and leadership?
It teaches me something new every day. I have a little saying that I stay consistent at the end of every post, and a lot of times,
I know, I see it every day.
and consistency has taught me a lot, because I was over 330 pounds at one time in my life, and it was because I made the wrong decisions consistently. Ate the wrong kinds of food, I drank the wrong kinds of things, but I did it consistently, and it got me to this point where I wasn't happy with the person I was in the mirror. And so I had to change that. And what did I have to do? I had to get consistent with those healthy habits. You're seeing me move kind of back and forth during this podcast because I made a commitment to myself that I was going to get 15,000 steps every single day. So what did I have to do?
15,000.
I got myself a walking pad and a standing desk. So anytime I'm in my office, I'm moving. I'm getting those small little habits stacked every single day. If I'm going to be here in front of a computer, I might as well keep moving. So I build that consistency and that discipline in myself. In doing those, stacking those healthy habits, drinking more water, focusing on high protein diets, practicing gratitude, putting good information into my head. So whether I'm reading or listening to audiobooks or podcasts, learning something, being in rooms where there's people that are ahead of me so I can learn from, but also being in rooms where with my peers or people that are below me, and me being able to pour into them. Because the best way to learn something is to teach somebody that. So I'm learning from other people, but then I'm trying to teach the people below me. Like the version of me 10 years ago, I'm trying to help that person like every day. So, it's building deeper into the healthy habits that I have. And that's just kind of opened up this whole new world of personal and professional development that I never knew that I needed when I started a weight loss journey.
So, what is next for you, Dane, as a leader, as a creator, and an educator in the industry? Also, what is next for Bats to Rats?
Sure. So Bats Rats, I want to continue to grow. I want to have more locations. I want to take what we've done here in our Lincoln branch and grow into the Omaha market here in Nebraska. And then maybe some of the bigger cities are around, maybe in Kansas City or out in Iowa somewhere, Colorado. So, something like that. That's easy to get to from where I'm at. I want to grow. I want to start expanding into more of a regional footprint. And then, the big goal is to have more of a national brand at some point in time. So that's kind of that big goal that I'm always trying to work towards. As far as me, continuing to show up for myself, continuing to show up for my family and show up for my community and kind of be that lighthouse for other people. Because I've always said that I'm not anything special. I was just an ordinary average guy, but I started to believe in myself and I started to realize that all of us have greatness inside of us. And sometimes we just need to see other people see the greatness inside of them and start working towards it. So if I can do
Like
that
your
for my,
wife? Like
yeah,
your wife?
yeah, exactly. She saw that greatness inside of me, and she's my rock. She's there all the time. She listens to everything that I talk
I think
about.
sometimes need somebody to remind us that greatness in us because we sometimes forget about it. If there's that somebody who reminds us that.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to, like I said, be that lighthouse for other people. Show them what's possible when you believe in yourself and you aren't focused on negatives and you're practicing gratitude daily, like that kind of stuff. And if I share as much as I can about my journey, about my wins, about my struggles, other people are watching. You never know who's watching. There's always somebody out there watching.
Definitely.
That's right. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, and you're in like New York. And you've been following along for the last year and you've seen it, the things that I share, and that's powerful. And I get lots of DMs from people, all over the place that are telling me, hey, man, I lost 50 pounds because I started doing this. Or, hey, my relationship with my wife is much stronger today because I started to become the better person that you showed me is possible. And that kind of stuff like jacks me up. Like I get super excited when I get these messages and people are telling me that they're bettering their lives because, I inspired them or motivated them to do something better with their own life. And that's what it's all about.
So, for anyone listening now or later who feels stuck in business, health, or life, what is the first step they can take to move forward?
Yeah. The biggest message I try to tell people is to start small. Don't try to change your life, flip it upside down and do everything different. Start small. Pick one area of your life that you're not super happy about. One dark corner that's in your brain that you wish that you did something different, and then work on that and work on it so much that it becomes second nature, this new habit. So maybe it's something small like, I like to drink pop during the day. Somebody likes to drink pop and they drink, 3 or 4 sodas every single day. Start cutting that down. Take one out and replace it with a water, with some electrolytes or some minerals or something like that. And do that. And then until you can get rid of all of the pop out of your daily consumption, then you just got rid of like 200 grams of sugar out of your diet, which is going to change a lot. If you do any kind of research on what sugar does to your brain and your body and all
Oh
that kind of
no,
stuff.
it's like it's worse than drugs, I guess, sugar,
Yeah.
because
So
it's very easy to reach also.
yeah. So start changing something small like that. Like drink more water, like what I'm doing right now. Go for a walk. Go for a 10-minute walk after each meal that you have. Maybe at the end of dinner, go for a walk with your spouse or something like that. Around the block a couple times. Nothing
So you're
crazy.
saying small goals, setting up small goals, and then go for big, right?
Yeah, because those things start stacking on top of each other. Once I started to prove to myself that I could get 8,000 steps a day, I gained confidence. Then I moved to 10,000 steps. I gained confidence. Then I moved to 12,000. I gained confidence. Then 15,000. And that's just kind of where I sit at now. And I gained confidence in myself and improved myself that I could do something. I'm a new version of myself than I was last week because I did this week. And I do that to myself every single day. But there's plenty of times I wake up and like, I don't want to go to the gym today. Well, I make myself do it because it's just the habit. And I'm disciplined to know that I just have to do these small habits every day and great things start to stack up and those big goals are achieved.
Mm. And finally, after all these experiences, your journey with both your business and personal life, what does stay consistent mean to you today?
So The biggest thing it means I'm showing up as the same Daine, the same man that I am in any room that I go walk into. I'm not somebody different on this podcast than I am at home or at work or in the community. I'm the same person. You know, I'm the same father, I'm the same husband, same business owner, the same leader, all of that. And it means that I'm choosing like the long game and not where the shortcuts are. If that makes sense. Like so many people like to cut corners and do things. Anytime that I like make a decision or I choose to do something, I'm always thinking about what that future version of me looks like, what that future business looks like, what my family's future looks like. Is that going to get me towards it quicker, or is it going to take away and detract from that future version of me? So I'm always thinking about that. So I'm always believing that you can reach any goal with consistent small steps.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask you something I always love actually asking fellow entrepreneurs because we all ride the same roller coaster of wins, setbacks, growth, and lessons. So you have been a business owner for over 15 years now, and I'm sure you're still learning every day. So what has your entrepreneurial journey really been like? And for anyone listening who is thinking about starting their own business, their own pest control or wildlife business, what advice would you give looking back? What are some things that work really well for you? And what are some things that did not work really well for you?
Well, there's always been a lot that hasn't worked out, but I'm here and I keep taking. I guess the biggest thing would be is take imperfect action. So many of us are waiting for the right time or the perfect time or waiting until I have, all of the knowledge about something. And I've come to realize after, working with a bunch of different coaches and my, especially when I started, like, I'm not the smartest person. I never have claimed to be. I'm not a perfect person whatsoever, but things that I learn or I find out about, I try to take action as fast as I possibly can on those things. And then I just, continue to fail forward. Like, okay, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Reflect on it, try it a different way, and keep moving forward. So just starting without thinking that you need to know everything and then refine it and change the process. Now our processes are set, but they're living documents. Like if somebody comes in my organization and has a better idea on how to solve a problem than what I've done, like I'm completely open to them bringing that to me and let's change it on the fly and let's see how it works and keep moving forward. So I would say that would be the best thing is just take imperfect action. And then because if we're always waiting for the perfect time, we're never really going to start.
I think there is no perfect time.
No.
That's what I believe. No, you just need to start and you will see. That doesn't mean you don't have to prepare anything before you start, but there is no perfect time. Yeah, that's what I also believe.
Awesome.
So, Dane, thank you so much for sharing your story, your experience, and your wisdom today. Your perspective as both a wildlife professional and a leader with 15 years of entrepreneurial experience is incredibly valuable. And I know a lot of people listening are going to take something meaningful from this conversation. I have personally learned a lot from your daily content, and this conversation just reinforced why so many people look up to you. So, your consistency, your honesty, your discipline, and the way you lead from the front really shows. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being very open and thank you for the impact you are making in our industry. So it has been an honor to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Faye. And yeah, I am so grateful for this opportunity and appreciate you giving me this platform to share with people. And, if you do follow me on social media, I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Daine Patton. And most of all the content that I share in there is usually reminding me of something that I need to relearn or something I have learned. And like I said before, I'm trying to teach other people so I can learn that lesson. So it's not, I don't share that stuff thinking that I'm this perfect person or have this great idea. It's like, okay, I need to remind myself this, so if I have to remind myself, I might as well share it because somebody else probably needs to be reminded as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.